What if the way your brain evaluates risk and reward silently predicts your financial personality and future life direction before you even act? Every decision you consider activates hidden neural systems, balancing fear of loss against anticipation of gain within milliseconds of awareness. Your brain is constantly simulating outcomes, constructing invisible future scenarios that shape confidence, hesitation, and willingness to move forward. When opportunity appears, some brains generate excitement signals that energize behavior, while others generate caution, signals that restrain action. This difference is not random personality, but a learned neurological pattern built through reinforcement memory and emotional interpretation of past events. People who move quickly toward opportunity often possess stronger reward anticipation pathways, driving motivation and exploratory behavioral tendencies. People who hesitate frequently possess stronger protective evaluation systems, prioritizing safety preservation and control over uncertain potential outcomes. Neither pattern is inherently superior, but dominance of one gradually shapes experience exposure and long-term achievement orientation. The brain learns from consequences, and each outcome strengthens specific neural responses guiding future reactions in similar situations. Positive outcomes reinforce approach behavior, increasing confidence, while negative outcomes reinforce avoidance behavior, increasing caution sensitivity. Over time, these reinforced reactions become automatic responses, appearing as personality traits rather than adaptive neurological strategies. Your decision style therefore reflects accumulated learning, rather than fixed identity, determined at birth or by simple preference. When confronted with uncertainty, the brain must choose between movement toward possibility or retreat toward preservation and stability. This internal negotiation occurs below conscious awareness, yet determines visible behavior recognized by others as confidence or hesitation. High performers often demonstrate balanced neural processing, allowing calculated action without reckless impulsivity or paralyzing fear responses. Such balance emerges through repeated exposure to challenge, followed by reflective learning, rather than avoidance of discomfort. The brain interprets repeated action as evidence of capability, gradually recalibrating threat perception and increasing tolerance for uncertainty. Avoidance produces the opposite effect, strengthening sensitivity to risk and reducing perceived ability to influence outcomes effectively. Your behavior today trains your brain's expectations about tomorrow's challenges, opportunities, and potential consequences of action. Confidence, therefore, is not a trait, but a prediction generated by neural systems based on previous experience patterns. When individuals understand this mechanism, they gain power to reshape behavior intentionally through repeated adaptive engagement. Self-awareness interrupts automatic reaction, allowing conscious evaluation rather than unconscious repetition of protective or impulsive responses. Every decision becomes an opportunity to retrain neural pathways, shaping future perception of possibility, risk, and personal competence. Opportunity-oriented cognition interprets uncertainty as potential learning, while threat-oriented cognition interprets uncertainty as potential harm. These interpretations determine emotional response intensity, influencing motivation energy and willingness to invest effort into action. Motivation emerges when anticipated reward exceeds perceived threat within the brain's internal predictive model of outcomes. If perceived threat dominates, behavioral energy decreases, resulting in hesitation, delay, or withdrawal from potential opportunity. Understanding this internal balance explains why equally intelligent individuals produce dramatically different behavioral outcomes in identical conditions. Intelligence alone does not determine success, but response calibration toward uncertainty, possibility, and perceived consequence evaluation. Individuals who repeatedly act despite uncertainty gradually reprogram neural responses, reducing fear activation and increasing approach readiness. Each completed action becomes neurological evidence that capability exists, strengthening confidence and reducing future hesitation patterns. Conversely, repeated avoidance becomes evidence of incapability, reinforcing protective withdrawal responses during future decision situations. The brain continuously updates its prediction model, integrating emotional memory, logical evaluation, and perceived identity stability. Identity itself is partly constructed from repeated behavior patterns reinforced by outcome interpretation and social feedback mechanisms. When action aligns with growth, the brain integrates success into identity, strengthening motivation for further exploration and engagement. When avoidance dominates identity, becomes associated with preservation stability and resistance to unfamiliar experience engagement. Both orientations shape environment selection, influencing opportunities encountered and experiences available for further learning. Opportunity seekers expose themselves to varied conditions, increasing probability of transformation, while preservers maintain predictable environments. Environment interaction feeds back into neural development, reinforcing dominant response orientation through repeated contextual experience. Your life trajectory therefore reflects ongoing interaction between neural processing, behavioral response, and environmental feedback loops. Awareness of this process enables intentional design of behavior, rather than passive continuation of inherited or learned patterns. Strategic action involves acknowledging fear, while proceeding based on informed evaluation, rather than automatic emotional dominance. True growth occurs when behavior is guided by understanding, rather than immediate comfort or instinctive avoidance of discomfort. The brain evolves through challenge, because adaptation requires engagement with conditions beyond established stability thresholds. Discomfort signals the presence of potential adaptation, prompting neural reorganization and expansion of perceived capability limits. Individuals who interpret discomfort as threat retreat, while those who interpret discomfort as information engage and transform. This interpretive difference determines whether challenge becomes obstacle or catalyst for cognitive and behavioral evolution. Your reaction to difficulty reveals not weakness or strength, but current configuration of neural expectation and learned prediction. Prediction drives perception, meaning the brain often sees confirmation of expectation rather than objective reality of situation. Altering behavior alters experience, which alters prediction, gradually transforming perception of possibility and self-capability. The cycle of prediction behavior and reinforcement operates continuously, shaping personality without conscious awareness of its influence. When awareness emerges, individuals gain capacity to intervene, altering trajectory through deliberate behavioral experimentation. Small, consistent actions recondition neural responses more effectively than rare, dramatic efforts toward immediate transformation. Consistency provides repeated evidence, allowing the brain to update prediction models toward increased capability expectation. As expectation shifts, behavior becomes easier because resistance decreases when anticipated threat diminishes over time. Ease of action therefore reflects internal prediction, not external difficulty of task or environmental complexity alone. Many perceived barriers originate from protective prediction rather than objective limitation or absence of opportunity. Recognizing this distinction allows separation of real constraint from learned avoidance based on outdated experience patterns. Your brain protects identity by preserving familiar behavior, even when that behavior limits potential growth and achievement. Identity preservation explains why change often feels threatening, despite potential benefit clearly visible through rational evaluation. Transformation requires temporary instability, as the brain revises prediction and reconstructs identity based on new behavior evidence. During this transition, uncertainty increases before stability returns in a more expanded and adaptive configuration. Those who endure transitional uncertainty access new capability ranges unavailable within previous behavioral constraints and expectations. Neural plasticity ensures that repeated intentional action gradually reshapes response patterns, regardless of initial tendency orientation. This adaptability means no decision style is permanent, and no behavioral trajectory is fixed beyond possibility of change. Every moment of awareness offers opportunity to influence neural development through choice of engagement or avoidance behavior. Your future therefore emerges from repeated present decisions, guided by awareness rather than automatic reaction alone. Opportunity recognition itself depends on cognitive orientation, because perception filters information based on expectation and relevance. Individuals oriented toward growth detect possibility where others detect threat within identical environmental conditions. Detection precedes action, meaning perception bias determines which opportunities become visible enough to consider pursuing. By adjusting interpretation of uncertainty, individuals expand perceived opportunity landscape within unchanged external circumstances. Expanded perception leads to expanded behavior, which leads to expanded experience reinforcing adaptive growth orientation. This positive feedback loop gradually transforms life structure through accumulation of small, consistent directional changes. Behavior aligned with intention produces coherence between identity and action, strengthening psychological stability and resilience. Resilience emerges when the brain trusts its ability to adapt rather than attempting to eliminate uncertainty entirely. Elimination of uncertainty is impossible, but adaptation to uncertainty is achievable through repeated exposure and learning integration. Therefore, success is not absence of fear, but capacity to act constructively while fear signals remain present. Courage is neurological regulation, rather than emotional absence, enabling behavior consistent with values despite protective impulses. Values provide direction guiding action when prediction uncertainty prevents clear outcome evaluation or guarantee of success. Alignment between value and behavior generates intrinsic motivation sustaining effort beyond immediate reward availability. Intrinsic motivation stabilizes engagement because it originates from identity rather than external validation or outcome dependency. When behavior expresses chosen identity, the brain reinforces coherence, reducing internal conflict and increasing sustained commitment. Commitment repeated across time produces mastery, as neural systems optimize efficiency through practice and reinforcement. Mastery further reduces perceived threat, because familiarity increases prediction accuracy and confidence in outcome influence. Confidence built through mastery differs from optimism, because it is grounded in evidence of capability rather than hope alone. Evidence-based confidence supports continued exploration, expanding potential, while maintaining realistic evaluation of risk. Thus, growth emerges from interaction of awareness, action reinforcement, and adaptive neural reorganization over extended periods. Your decisions today initiate neural changes that shape perception, motivation, and behavior in future moments of opportunity. Understanding this process transforms choice from reaction into creation, allowing intentional participation in personal development. You are not merely experiencing outcomes, but continuously generating them through interaction of cognition, behavior, and environment. Every action becomes information training the brain to expect success, hesitation, progress, or preservation in subsequent situations. The direction of this training determines whether life expands through engagement or stabilizes through protection and control. Neither path is predetermined, because awareness introduces capacity for deliberate adjustment of response and behavioral strategy. By observing internal reaction before acting, you create space where conscious choice can replace automatic neurological prediction. Within that space lies freedom to redesign response patterns, guiding your trajectory toward chosen rather than inherited outcomes. Your brain is not your limitation, but your adaptive instrument evolving according to patterns of use and reinforcement. The future you experience will reflect the decisions you repeat and the awareness with which you choose them. If you understand how your brain decides, you gain power to decide who you become through consistent, intentional action. Enjoyed the story? Make sure to like, subscribe, and visit Just Fact for more chilling mysteries.